Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Mosca here again with another beer review for you as is usual. For this one we're going to return to Munich, and I've already done 2 reviews for you quite recently from this brewery in fact, so you can find the link to those in the video description there along with the brewery website. But we're going to revisit the Augustiner Bräu and have a little look at their Edelstoff export beer this time. It's a Helles style beer, a Dortmunder style Helles apparently, so it should be fairly similar I guess to the lager beer Hell, but we'll see when we get on with the tasting if you like. I'll do a little comparison there I guess, but as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll just take you through a brief history of the brewery and tell you a little bit about where the beer comes from and all of that sort of thing. But like I say, if you are simply interested in the tasting of the beer, feel free to go towards the latter part of the video. So anyway, the history of Augustiner goes back to the year 1294 when the Augustinian Monastery was built in the Haberfeld district of Munich, just next to the Neuhausergasse. Now there's apparently documentary proof that beer was produced within the walls of this building in the year 1328, and the brewing rights were reportedly granted by the order of the Bishop of Freising. Of course, that is the home of the Weihenstephaner Brewery, the oldest brewery in the world, and of course in Germany for that matter as well. But that year there was a huge fire in Munich that destroyed a large part of the city, but the monastery is actually well known to have survived this fire, and so the year 1328 is considered to be the foundation date of the Augustiner Brewery, which makes it the oldest brewery within the city of Munich. Now, despite the secularization policies in 1803 that were a result of Napoleon, if you like, he was the one who imposed these policies. Many Bavarian monasteries actually became state-owned, but beer continued to be brewed in the monastery, and the beer continued to be sold in the tavern of the brewery, and it actually retained its brewing and selling rights, of course. But the Bavarian prince had apparently given the monks the right to brew and sell their beer, and he actually later exempted them from any taxes because of the high quality of beer. He was apparently a big fan of the Augustiner beer. But after the takeover of the monastery by the state and the departure of the Brotherhood, the brewery was actually denationalised and moved to number 275 Neuhauserstrasse in 1817, and apparently it's number 27 in Munich's central pedestrian district today. But the company only stayed there until the year 1885 when the Stammhaus was actually turned into a restaurant, and the Stammhaus actually does remain as a restaurant until this day, and apparently it was actually renovated by the famous German architect Emanuel von Seidel at the beginning of the 19th century. I'm not quite sure exactly what he's famous for, but I'll look at that for my next Augustiner video for you and tell you. But the brewery was originally privatised by Anton and Theresa Wagner, who bought the company back in 1829, and in 1858 the running of the brewery was taken over by their son Josef Wagner, and under his guidance the brewery began to majorly prosper, and this is why you can see the initials JW in all the bottles today as a sort of tribute to Josef Wagner. But since 1885 the brewery has been known as the Keller Real and at the Landsberger Strasse, which is today number 31 to 35, which is near their brew pub or tavern if you like, and that is called the Braustube. So you can go and see both of these places in Munich, and I highly recommend that you do that because the beers that they're producing are awesome and you won't be disappointed by them. But after Josef's death in the year 1900, his sons Richard and Max ran the brewery, and in 1941 the brewery was taken over by Richard's son Rudolf, and then he converted the brewery into a limited partnership company. But the brewery building was actually very badly damaged in 1941. It was rebuilt soon after, and Rudolf Wagner had actually increased the production of the brewery to 300,000 hectolitres per annum, and he actually resisted many takeover bids for the brewery as well. But sadly, Rudolf Wagner actually died in the year 1981 without leaving a will and testament, which meant that the brewery was left to a community or a consortium of heirs, if you like, and this included his cousin Edith Haberland Wagner and 5 others, most of whom lived in North America. So Edith assumed 50% of the shares of the brewery, and the management of the brewery shops and restaurants were taken over by Ferdinand Schmidt and Karl Grossmann respectively. And upon the advice of Ferdinand Schmidt, Edith Wagner actually converted the company into a charitable organisation which was known as the Edith Haberland Wagner Stiftung, and this today owns 51% of the brewery shares, and this was basically done to prevent the brewery being taken over by some of the larger brewing groups in Germany. So it's a sort of way that they've managed to maintain the brewery's independence, and it's a very, very clever way they've done this. But it's really cool because it basically protects the oldest brewery in Munich. And if you go and read the history of the other breweries, and some of the ones that I've reviewed for you, of course, many of the small breweries have at some point been taken over by the larger brewing groups and lost their independence, if you like. So it's always cool to see one of these really famous breweries maintaining their independence anyway. But to list it, that's your brief history of the Augustiner Bräu. But to tell you the other beers you can get from this brewery, you can get the Lager beer Hell, which is one I've already reviewed for you. You get the Edelstoff, which is this guy. You get the Weiss beer, the Pils, Oktoberfest beer, the Maximator, which is apparently a Doppelbock, supposed to be really, really awesome beer. You get a Dunkel, and you also get a Hellerbock beer. So that's all your list of beers for you there. We'll get on with the tasting of this guy now. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little closer look at the label and stuff on this guy. I'm hoping the light will let it show up nicely, but you can see on the bottle there quite clearly it says 1328, and of course that was the year that there was the big fire in Munich and the Augustiner Brewery is considered to have been founded. You can see JW for Josef Wagner there, and this guy you can see Augustiner Bräu München Edelstoff, and this guy is basically a sort of bright export beer, if you like. It's 5.6% alcohol by volume on the Richter scale, if you like. And here is the Augustiner cap, if you like. This is the 525th anniversary of this brewery, which is the 525th anniversary of the cap. So that's actually quite cool. That's that must be 2013 then, if my maths is actually serving me right there. So yeah, pretty cool to see this guy again. But we'll get it out and get on with the tasting here. So let's get on with this. There we are. As you can see, a nice smoky opening on the when I open it up there. Let's get this guy out and into the glass. As you can see, it's a really kind of bright pale straw colour here. Should have a nice bit of German head on it here. I thought I had that just nicely, but obviously not. But we'll pour the rest just in a little second actually. So as you can see, a really nice sort of pale straw golden colour. If I hold my fingers behind that, you can just see it's pretty much transparent, if you like. I was searching for the word there, but you can see a little bit of carbonation, very small bubbles in fact coming up to the top there. There's a good two-fingered head, definitely frothy, a little bit of bumpy bubbles actually around the side, so a bit of a mix of a bumpy and a frothy head, if you like, but definitely a pale straw golden colour. When I pour the last of it in, there's no sedimentation coming out of it there, in fact, so very, very clear beer. As you can see, really attractive looking. It looks like quite a premium beer, in fact, but we know it's a craft beer rather than a premium beer or a mass-produced beer, so quite looking forward to getting wired into this guy. So in terms of the aroma, actually quite a sort of grassy and aromatic thing is the grassy and aromatic aroma is the prominent feature of this guy. And obviously there's a little bit of citrus in there, and that kind of is inherent when you've got grassy hops. The head of this guy isn't maintaining very well, in fact, compared to the other ones. It's kind of going away just to the thin layer already. But you can detect a bit of breadiness and maybe actually some biscuity sweetness, if you like, to this guy. So it should be quite a sweet malted beer, I would think, in fact. But yeah, a lot of the character is aromatic hops, and definitely some biscuity sweet, and maybe even a little bit of yeasty character. In fact, there's a sweet malt base in there definitely, so maybe yeast, biscuity malts. You can pick up the bread in there, but floral and some sort of floral aromatic hop character along with grassy citrus notes as well. So quite an interesting aroma, and this is what you would expect from the sort of Dortmund style Helles beer. So let's give it a taste and see how we get on. It's starting off with the sweet malts, but on the first taste you're getting a little bit of the kind of grassy and aromatic hops just on the edge of the tongue. The bready malts are definitely sticking to the middle. But yeah, you've got a nice mix of the bready and biscuity malts in there. It's not too sweet, in fact. It's actually quite nicely balanced, the malt base, and there actually is there's a definite little bit of cereal in there, in my opinion. It does have just a kind of little bit of spicy character to it on the malt base, and there is the yeasty character that makes it a bit sort of doughy, if you like, as well. So quite an interesting malt base to this guy, and interesting as well that they can get the hops to come out so early in the flavour, which is always interesting. yeah, definitely are getting just a little bit of the floral, aromatic, grassy hops on the edge of the tongue there, definitely. But yeah, in the second part of the beer, you're getting the citric and grassy hops. There is a definite floral character to this guy, and it really is kind of quite pungent on the edge of the tongue, so it's quite interesting in fact, and that's probably the difference between this guy and the Lager Beer Hell. The grassy character was a lot more mild in this one, from what I remember. This guy definitely is a bit more prominent with that aromatic character, and that's what sets it apart a little bit from the Hell. The Hell beer is more focused on the malt a little bit, I would say. This guy is probably a bit more hoppy than the other one. But yeah, some nice grassy citric flavours in there, and like I say, you've got the nice floral aromatic character just sitting there. The aftertaste is coming back to that bready and kind of yeasty malt base, if you like. So it's an interesting one. It's actually very well balanced, I would say, and it does have that, even though it's a sort of similar style to the Hell beer that they do, the Munich Hell, you can see the difference there. The Dortmund beers usually are a little bit more hoppy than the Munich Hell beers, so they've sort of got the difference between the styles spot on. I should have actually, now that I've tasted this one, that's come into my head, and I should have known that before I started the video, in fact. So they've done the difference in the styles quite well. So if you like a sort of light Hell's beer that's a bit more hoppy, this is your guy. But if you like the more malty, bready beers, which is probably more the way that I lean when it comes to the sort of Pils or Helles style beers, you would probably want to go for the Lager Beer Hell. So either of them are really, really good, I have to say. I do like both of them, and both sort of styles have their own merits, if you like. In terms of, we'll go talk about the mouthfeel of this guy now. I would say this guy is probably quite light bodied, maybe pushing the mid barrier, if you like. It does have a nice bit of bitter character throughout, which is interesting. The carbonation of this one is soft, but the hoppy character makes it a little bit more pronounced in comparison to the Lager Beer Hell, I would say. And the level of bitterness in this beer is actually quite well done, and it's a very refreshing beer, in fact, and that's probably the contribution of the hops from the sort of more Dortmund style beer, if you like. I do like that about it. It is a very refreshing beer, more so than the Lager Beer Hell. The carbonation is a little bit soft, like I say, but the hop character is making it a little bit more pronounced, and it's very smooth as well, typical of German beer. But overall, overall for this beer, I would say it's quite refreshing beer. It's not the most complex German beer in terms of flavour that you can find, but it does the style that it's intended for. A Dortmund style Helles beer, it does that very, very well. It has the extra hoppy character in comparison to the Lager Beer Hell, so they've done the two different styles very, very well, as I said previously in the video. So if you like a sort of more hoppy Hell beer, this guy is definitely worth checking out, and any beer from Augustiner is definitely worth checking out. So, you know, check out the brewery website, see what you think of them. Hopefully I can get the Maximator and review that for you at a later date. I really want to get that beer and make a video for it. But anyway, I hope you found the beer review informative. Please let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this brewery. I highly recommend that you try out anything from the Augustiner Brewery. You certainly won't be disappointed. If you're in the Munich area of Germany, go and check out their brew house and the brewery, of course, there. But thanks again for your continued support of my beer reviews. Please like, subscribe, share. As I say, share your own thoughts on the beer in the comment section, and thank you again for your support. I'll be back soon with another beer review, and hopefully in the not too distant future I can get some more Augustiner beers for you. But thanks again, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.